Hi, and thanks for tuning in to our live radio show. Moments of Clarity with Tiffany will begin in just a few moments. Please stay tuned. Kindly take this opportunity to share this show on your platforms, because change can only come when we stand together as one, especially when it comes to ending the stigma on mental health.
You are not alone, and help is out there.
Kids have mental health issues, and we also need to learn coping skills.
Let's get started and let the show begin. See you soon.
Don't put yourself down, time for a change. Believe in yourself, time to rearrange. Be your best friend, bring hope to your day. Lose your critic, get out of your way. Now it clicks, moments of clarity. Now I hear moments of clarity. Now I get it, moments of clarity. To yourself be kind, it will please your mind. Find your joy, trust in you. Put in the time, you'll see how you grow. Many kinds of love you get to define. Find self-love, your soul will align. Now it clicks, moments of clarity. Now I hear moments of clarity. Now I get it, moments of clarity.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for watching. This is Moments of Clarity with Tiffany. I'm Tiffany Warner, licensed mental health counselor, and I'm your host. And we have a very powerful guest today, and all the way from Canada. And I'm going to pronounce her last name the right way. We're just waiting for Tan Talk Radio. But Kate, how are you doing today?
Great. Thank you for having me, Tiffany. It's nice to be here.
Nice to have you here. And we have a lot of friends here as well. Joe, thank you so much off of LinkedIn. Thanks for joining us today. Invite your friends to watch the show. Call in with comments or questions. You're all welcome to call in 866-826-1340 once we start the radio. We're waiting for Tan Talk Radio to show up, and then we will start that. But call in. And if you can't call in and have a question for the guest, leave questions here. Every effort will be made to read your question live. Thank you, Joe, for that and for everything. And hello. Tell us where you're from. And Bagger, thank you from LinkedIn. Hi. And Jason Mazzella from Mumbai, India. Kate, you know Jason.
Yeah. Hi, Jason.
I can't wait for you to share your story, Kate. And Abby from Seattle, Abby Gadia. Thanks for being here, Kate.
Thank you, Abby.
It must be raining in Seattle.
It's raining here in Canada. At least not snow. Usually we get snow.
You're Eastern Standard Time, correct?
Yeah. Usually we have snow at this time.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
So Ed, if you just unmute for me, and then we could start the show. That would be great. And
Tune in on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Welcome to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Werner, licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida. Moments of Clarity's mission is to educate and end the stigma on mental health through the inspirational stories of our exceptional guests. You can join in the show by calling Tiffany toll-free at 866-826-1340 or on Facebook and Twitter at MOC with Tiffany. Now, here's Tiffany Werner.
hello and welcome. Welcome to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany. My name is Tiffany Werner. I'm a licensed mental health counselor and your host. And today, the title of our show is Forgiving People That Murdered Your Family. That sounds like exactly what it is. And my guest is very brave, and we're going to hear her journey, and also a best-selling author and motivational speaker. Before I formally introduce her, I'd like to say hi to Ed.
Hey, happy Friday.
Happy Friday. How are you doing?
Yeah.
Good. Hi.
Did you got a new shirt? Like, you look good in red.
I alternate black, red, whatever. Depends how I feel.
I usually have the Tan Talk shirt on, but we match most of the time. I usually have black on too. It's my signature color. Everyone knows that. But it's good to see you. And
You too.
Forgiving People That Murdered Your Family is our title. So it's going to be one of those shows. And so anyway, when you guys call in, if you call in 866-826-1340, that's Ed who answers the phone, and say hi to Ed when you do. So anyway, my guest today actually is a motivational speaker, international best-selling author of 2 books, and a mental health advocate. And she's been passionate in ending the stigma but helping suicide and mental health after learning to find forgiveness for those who murdered her family. And she's got 2 books. We're going to talk about them in our show. And she's with us from Canada, and has been a mental health professional for the past decade. She has an education in social health services and social services with certifications in grief therapy, suicide prevention, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and she's a Reiki Master as well as CEO of her company, Sacred Roots Coaching. So her passion is to help illuminate trauma survivors to find their voice, become resilient, and reach the power of forgiveness for themselves. She's a powerful role model, and she found forgiveness for the murderers that took her entire family at age 13. 13. She's developed and teaches effortless processes that allow individuals to forgive and fall in love with themselves. And in addition, she has a wealth of knowledge and expertise working with children, young adults, and various degrees of disability, depression, anxiety, autism, and post-traumatic stress disorder. And her gift is to help orphans and trauma survivors find their voice, overcome their fears, and live their best life. And she's been featured on several other shows. And welcome to Moments of Clarity, Kate Vrastak.
Thank you for having me, Tiffany. Thank you for that introduction.
It's funny when we go through something and then we find that to be our calling on helping others. Mm-hmm. And so let's start from the beginning with your story. And when you say a moment of clarity, you get a bell. Just don't, unless you say it over and over again.
Okay.
Some people are like, I want to get a lot of bells, and then I'm just ringing the bell too much. But and what people, you guys are welcome to call in, friends. Support 866-826-1340. Okay, let's hear your story.
Well, just like you said, my trauma from my childhood has been my gift. It was the catalyst that makes me passionate to help others and give back. Because I'm here to say I'm a survivor thriving and a victor over my circumstances. And ironically enough, that was my brother's middle name, was Victor, who was killed with my mother, was the first deaths that I experienced. And actually the anniversary was just November 5th. So these months, I don't know if anybody can relate, but the months of when you lose your loved ones, it kind of brings you back to realization of those moments. But this year, I chose consciously to break free from that dwelling so much on it, as opposed to celebrating their lives and rebirthing my own life through the healing journey. And that's what can happen when you choose to be the catalyst for change and help others heal. And that's why I became the grief therapist, the Neuro-Linguistic Programming specialist, and, you know, all kinds of different modalities that I've taken on, because I chose to heal myself first. Because before you can go out there and heal the world, as they say, you have to heal yourself and show up for yourself. So I'm here to say I've done that. So that truly, was my break free, ignite moment for me to, rebirth to the place that I am today, to be sitting here in front of you and not in the place of pain. I might want to add that for your listeners. I'm not here in pain or suffering. I am at peace, and I have freedom because I've reached that forgiveness.
But that's great. And I've been in a similar spot. But at the same time, I like how you say the months of things where we miss those that have passed away, we can take it as a day of mourning, or we can celebrate them. And I think putting their pictures on our screensavers or things like that help to celebrate their lives, rather than make it another whole month of grief. But what happened with your family when you were 13?
Okay, I'll bring you back to the moment that I was 13. My mom brought me up or exposed me, believe it or not, to many religions just before she died, between the ages of 10 and 13 years of age. Now, prior to that, I lived in a very dysfunctional home. My parents divorced when I was only 5 months old. There was a stepfather involved that was not a very healthy influence. I won't go into details about that, but lo and behold, when I finally made a loud scream, that individual was now then removed from the home. That being said, I became a woman early in life because of the trauma, but at the age of 10, I realized something wasn't right. I wasn't feeling that I had a voice. And it's because my mother taught me to not even be seen or heard. So as a young girl, I grew up being behind the scenes. So when she died at age 13, it was quite traumatic, because I did know that she was going to pass away. And yes, that is hard enough to live with, but I had a sixth sense. I don't know if anybody of your listeners can relate to that, but I had a huge sixth sense that that morning when she was to leave, that would be the last day that I was going to see her. I tried to stop her. I was ironically anointed and prophesied on, if your listeners are religious at all, that night before by the missionaries who also died with my mom and brother that early morning. I knew that I was going to have a huge change in my life. And I sat there crying, trying to prevent the tragedy from occurring. But ironically enough, my mother and brother, I use the word ironically enough because I saw it in my sleep during the night, it about to happen. I don't know if your listeners have any kind of clairvoyance or clairaudient gifts, but I saw it and I woke up with a startle, and I knew that something drastic was going to happen. And then it did. Just a few hours after my mother left my home with my brother and my two best friends and their parents, who were missionaries, to go back to their stranded vehicle, they were taken instantly by a transport truck driver who fell asleep behind the wheel and killed them all instantly, took out the whole bridge along with them, and was only fined $25 a head that he killed. Didn't even show up at his court appearance, but he didn't even write an apology letter. And we were just left, my brother and myself, another brother, and the two missionaries' children survived the accident. And those years from 13 to 17, I would say, was a blur, because I went about life trying to find my purpose. Where did I belong? What did I, need to do to make something out of myself. I didn't have a mother to guide me. I didn't have anybody that took me under their wing to say, you know, Catherine, this is time for you to take care of yourself. So what did I have to do? Well, I finished high school. Luckily, I was only one credit short of grade 13. I decided that I needed to stop school. I just couldn't handle it anymore. Accounting was my worst subject. And I realized that numbers, I couldn't really think logically anymore, because everything in my life up to that point did not make sense, because I said, like, I tried to prevent it, but nobody listened to me. So I felt my voice was not a powerful tool that I could use. So over the years, I decided that in order to get my voice back, I needed to heal myself and take it on myself to heal. But my step to that was going to Bible college to prove that I could live in the legacy of my mother, who died as a missionary, helping missionaries who also passed away. And they were, ironically enough, only 30, my mother and the missionaries were only 33 years of age. And that being symbolic was Christ's age as well when he died. So what I've done over the years is I've healed my past life, and I've healed this lifetime of grief that was carrying on all throughout childhood and into adulthood. But I realized my life was an epiphany of that, what my mother was trying to bring me into religion, to make me feel that I had a belonging here, that God had an anointing on my life and I was supposed to still be here. And that's why I'm all about saving lives from suicide, because we're all here for a purpose. We choose our parents and we're here to shine our light, but we have to go through the darkness. We have to go through the grief. We have to go through that mourning and that purging of our emotions in order to get to the other side, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, beautifully said, but I'm still. So you were 13 and massive car accident, and how the driver treated the incident. Just I've heard that before from other people, where the person that caused the death, and that they just disregarded, didn't even say sorry to the families, the surviving families, and you were just a little kid. And
yeah. And it was sad because it was actually near Terry Fox. I don't know if anybody knows of the Terry Fox lookout, but it was along that road where they were. So I thought also that was imagery for me to keep moving forward about it all, because the court system did not support us being left as orphans. Like, I became an orphan because my father had died in a coma before that. And then my other brother shortly thereafter also was killed. But this incident really brought both my other brother and myself down two different paths altogether. And knowing that the court system did not give us a voice in having this gentleman even serve any time. In fact, his load, it was an excuse that was given. He was pushing his load. And at that time, they had to log their time, but they weren't told that they had to pull over. I guess they've changed the standards of truck drivers since that incident, I've been told anyway, because I know other truck drivers that you can only drive for so many hours and then you have to pull over. But for him, he had been pushing his load and it was perishable goods. So they had to remove the truck quickly. And so shut down the whole road for quite a few hours because of the degree of damage that was caused. They were just crossing a bridge and the truck driver, took out literally the whole bridge because he had fallen asleep. He admitted it. So that's why he got off with only $25 a head. So all he was fined was $25 each person, and didn't even show up for his court appearance. His lawyers dealt with it all. And it's really horrific that in the court's eyes that can be excused because it's same as manslaughter, right? It's a killing. And it was devastating because my brother was only 14 and he still had his whole life ahead of him. And my mother was only 33. So very young lives. And here I was left at 13, which is just when a young girl or a gentleman would be trying to embark on their life and trying to figure out who they are. And hormones are raging. Of course, you're trying to find your identity. And that's what really threw me in a tailspin, because then I grew up very quickly because my grandmother was in a very fragile state, who we were living with at the time. My mother was only working part-time, so she was geared to income housing. So we took care of my grandmother, who I actually saved many times from heart attacks. And then shortly thereafter, 5 days before Christmas, she died as well. So that was my last lifesaver on the planet to help me anchor myself to my purpose and being here still. So I went through a little dip in a valley of wondering, why am I still here? And
survivor guilt, like you might have been in the car too and all of that.
I had that actually, Tiffany, survivor guilt for more years than I'd like to admit, at least 30 years, because I said, with having the gifts that I had of clairvoyance and clairaudience, but I didn't know as a child, of course, that's what it was called. And my mother, of course, back in those days did not, harness those kind of gifts. And when you're a kid, you're to just, be quiet. You're just to listen to adults. And so that guilt, that consciousness that I had, I carried with me and said, like, why couldn't I prevent it? So I internalized the pain and internalized even self-blame and shame for quite a few years until I did some really deep trauma work, which I realized it was tied to the trauma of my childhood, even before my mother died. But I was allocating all the blame to myself instead of where it needed to be and putting ownership where it needed to be, including the gentleman that took the lives of my family. So yeah, it's survivor guilt for sure. In fact, I was just talking to someone else and they said, like, how do you deal with that? And it's quite a process, but Neuro-Linguistic Programming was and hypnosis was really my ability to break free from that.
I mean, it takes some work, because when we lose somebody suddenly that we love, it's a lot of survivor guilt, like things that we should have said or didn't have a chance to say or could have done or whatever, even if it's undeserved guilt too. How old was the brother that survived and stayed with you when you were 13?
He was only 12, because we were only, my brother that survived was home with us, was only 11 months younger than me. And my brother that died was only 14 months older than me. So I was a middle child syndrome as well, a true middle child syndrome, and kind of lost in the shuffle. But then I had to take on the responsibility of everything. So, and he was more of a free child, we'll just say. He was very explorative, we'll just say. And so I was the one that was on straight and narrow. I didn't deviate from my path because I had to be responsible for my grandmother. And then, of course, the church took over and tried to help, because my grandmother had left someone from the church as the executor. So she kind of helped be the steer leader to take care of the assets. That wasn't much anyway. But then I ended up staying in a home that was organized by the church as well. And that was an interesting journey. And so we...
you didn't go into foster care. Your grandma took custody then?
Yeah, my grandmother took until she died. Yes. Mm-hmm. And then because of my age and because the church was involved, I was able to stay out of foster care, even though it was a close call that they wanted me to go into care. But I stayed with a close friend of mine that I had grown up with through the high school. And he was also a teacher. So that kind of gave me a refuge for a short time. And then I was moved into a home within the church of a middle-aged couple.
It's a rough start, but I know where you're at now. So, I mean, it does have a happier ending, but very strong, and for what you've been through. And there's a lot of things that you've done with the grief and loss and things like that. And we're going to get into that in just a minute. It's time for our first break. And please stay tuned. You're welcome to call in 866-826-1340, 866-826-1340. And we'll be back with Moments of Clarity in just a moment.
You're listening to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Werner. We welcome your input at 866-826-1340. Tiffany will be right back after this.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Hello, my name is Lucy Lopes, and I'm a real estate agent that supports ending the stigma on mental health with Moments of Clarity with Tiffany. I am also passionate about helping you buy or sell your home. With times being so difficult, I'm here to help. Contact me at lucylopes.com. That's LUCYLOPES.com. Let me assist you through this pandemic and know that you are not alone.
If you're a show host, gamer, live streamer, podcast host, or radio show host that would like your message to get out and reach up to 30 platforms, then there's an affordable way to do that. It's called Restream. Restream makes it easy to broadcast professional live videos from your browser to multiple social platforms at once. Start your live show with guests, brand it with logos and overlays, and create an interactive experience for your audience. Learn more at Restream.io and mention Moments of Clarity for special offers.
Hi, this is Tiffany Warner, your host of Moments of Clarity. Living with a mental health disorder is not easy. If you or someone you know are struggling with this, please know it's so important to seek treatment, and I'm here to help. Please visit the website at momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com to view blog posts and resources on this site to help educate and inspire you to take action, because there's no shame in seeking help for mental health. While you're there, please take a few seconds to sign up for my email list. You'll get some extremely valuable educational and entertaining content that can be sent right to your inbox each week. Plus, you'll also get instant and free access to my guide on managing your anxiety. You can also follow me on Twitter at MOC with Tiffany and at Facebook at Tiffany Warner. And once again, the website is momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com. Thank you so much for your support and for listening to your show, because change can only come when we stand together as one.
Are you looking for a great book? If you like to root for the underdog, Joe Potosi's book is a book for you. A real American Odyssey that will grab your attention with its fast-moving narrative. You won't be able to put this masterpiece down. When the Dust Settled by Joe Potosi. Go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or Zulin Press.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
We are back to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Warner. To join in the discussion, call 866-826-1340. Now, here's Tiffany Warner.
Hi, and thanks for tuning in, and welcome back. This is Moments of Clarity with Tiffany. My name is Tiffany Warner. I'm a licensed mental health counselor and your host. And my guest today suffered such a tragic loss at the mere age of 13 when her whole family was murdered by someone falling asleep with a Mack truck, and she, thank goodness, was not in the car with him. And has survived to tell the tale, but has not had an easy life, but done a lot of positive things with it. And welcome back to Moments of Clarity, Kate Vrastak.
Thank you so much. And yes, I'm not here to dwell so much on the story. It's as more so what I've done with the story to help others see that you can also have the moments of clarity and ignite moments that I've had, that I've even written about, because we're here to be that light and to beam the light on the world that is already suffering. Especially we've noticed that during COVID times. And of course, my life had been a lot of suffering. And the icing on the cake was then when my brother, my last sibling, was murdered. And that was very tragic. And I found out about it on Facebook, believe it or not. So I'm very much of a component.
Survived with you, the 12-year-old?
Yeah, he was then killed later, and he was riding his bicycle and he was driven down, and he actually died out. Well, we had to pull the plugs on him because he was on his bike and wasn't wearing a helmet, and he was hit, and they drove off, and his head hit the dentist office, where he ended up being laid there for quite a bit before somebody came and found him. And then he was pronounced dead the next day. And that was just in October. So the anniversary of his death just passed as well. So it
was a hit and run, and they just left him
there? That was
there?
a hit and run. They did find the guy 27 hours later because there was surveillance cameras in the dentist office. So thankfully I had closure, which a lot of family that go through death as tragic as that don't necessarily have that closure. So I was just so thankful. I know, as morbid as it sounds, but I did have to watch, and I asked the police to watch the video in the courtroom, as the gentleman was charged with second-degree murder, but was gotten off with only molecular manslaughter, which is only 1 year, believe it or not. So even the guy that killed my mother and brother and 2 missionaries would have only got 1 year. And that's pretty sad, but that's what molecular manslaughter gives in Canada.
And there's some people that I've known that made an accidental car accident and gotten 10.
I know.
And
But it's horrific to think, but because he also failed to remain at the scene of the accident, that's what gave him the additional total of 7 years sentence.
right, you would think that you can't even get in a car accident and run, like, but especially hitting a boy on a bike.
Yeah. And it was intentional. It was proven that it was intentional. So when he was,
It was intentional that he hit him.
yeah,
Or
because
intentional that he
there
left?
was an encounter outside of the casino, and then he ran him down because of that encounter, that exchange that happened.
Oh, so it wasn't just a.
No, it was done intentionally. And so we thought it was a hate crime initially when I was contacted. So, but the individual's father went public about it and apologized on public TV. And even before I knew what really happened. But that being said, I used it as a ignite opportunity. I can say that now, not at the time, of course, but for me to heal all the repressed grief and sadness and definitely anger that I had within inside of me because of the first death of my mother and brother, because I thought the court system wasn't there to support me. So I'm going to utilize the victim impact statements that I shared to help others heal and help the court system understand how survivors go through a lot of loss and emotions, and it affects their whole family. And there was 14 other children involved in this killing of my brother, because he had 5 children. The guy that killed him had 6 children, and then my 2 children. And, you know, like, there was a lot of children involved. And so I wanted to set a precedence in the court system on how survivors of trauma of this nature have to still try to pick up the pieces and go on. And it's not easy. So I'm here to say that I can support people in that journey, because I know firsthand what it was like to put that fragmented heart of mine and soul back together. And it was a journey.
A huge trigger too, because you had gone through it. And and empathetically, I'm trying to, like, put myself in your position. Like, the truck driver who fell asleep and didn't intentionally fall asleep, but still took your whole family. You know, that was not intentional. It wasn't premeditated. Like, he was gonna just, you know. So that
there's a difference there for sure.
That one that ran your brother over later on, you know. So what kind of bike was he on? He had 2 children.
My brother was only on a bicycle. And the gentleman that was driving his father's vehicle, and it was a van, and he went at him twice. He swerved at him once, but because of the parking meter was in the way, he couldn't reach him. So then he kept following him down the opposite side of the street. So he even put other oncoming traffic at risk, and he still pursued him. And then as soon as my brother went into the laneway of the dentist office, that's where he followed him and contacted him. And I watched this all on camera, and it was because—
How does that help you to watch?
Why I chose to do that, and I want your listeners to know, it's not to be morbid about it, but it was for me to help find forgiveness, because I had said to the detective that I need to put closure to this, but I need to forgive him too, so I can go on, because I know that with my mother's and brother's killer, it would have helped if we had the closure, you know, for him to even come to apologize, even to send a letter. So if any of your listeners have gone through any of this, I really encourage writing letters. Even if you don't send them, write a letter, because energetically it helps heal the karma and the energetic cords between the relationships. Because if I would have had that, and I shared that in my victim impact statements, it would have made so much of my journey less traumatic, because I kept looking for answers. I kept trying to find the solution and rid myself of the guilt that I couldn't have prevented it or couldn't have stopped it. And, you know,
even any trauma, like child abuse, sexual abuse, child sexual abuse, anything that you need to forgive someone for that was horrible, you can write the letters. That's a very powerful therapeutic tool.
It is, and mostly with your less dominant hand, because then it balances the right brain and the left brain, so you can empty out. And as much as that sounds bizarre, it works. It really does.
Right, with your left hand, if you're right-handed.
Because you become like a child, and that's why we get repressed in our memories, is because they're childhood memories. Between 0 and 7 years of age is the crucial traumatic time that a child is being brought up. And if there's trauma in there, that are crucial time, I shouldn't say of bringing up a child, but if there's trauma in there between ages 0 and 7, that stays repressed in the body, in the cells. And that's why I manifested dis-ease. And that's why I started writing books about how I started to heal and peel back the layers, because I realized with me not healing and keep throwing my anger at everybody around me, it not consciously, but subconsciously, because I was frustrated with life. And why did life have to give me all of this grief and sadness and repressed emotions?
One of the stages of grief and loss. There's 5, denial, bargaining, anger, depression, then acceptance. And as a teenager, which I was a teenager when I lost my parents too, not the same way either, but I stayed in the anger phase for quite some time, and it's easy to just stuck in the.
But I internalized the anger. I didn't realize that anger was feeding me. I became a perfectionist, a workaholic, and I never went to drugs or alcohol. Of course, the odd social gathering, but never an addicted pattern, because I knew that I wanted to find the solution to why this all had to happen to me, because of that prophecy that I'd given was given the night before my mother and brother were killed. And like, it was said that God would use my life mightily, is what the missionary had said. I'm like, yeah, everybody's life is used mightily by God. But I even had to go through my anger at God, because like, why God? Like, I was supposed to be, I was born as a saint after all, and All Saints Day. I joke about that, but why my life? Why me?
Birthday? That's November 1st, the day after Halloween, right?
Yeah, exactly. A day after Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, even when I sought counseling, people could not believe, the therapist could not believe that I had such compounded loss, like so close together, one after the other, that how could I even breathe? How could I even come up for air? And that's where I went into a tailspin. But I said, no, I'm not going to stay there very long. So when I went on to Bible college, and I don't know if your listeners know Billy Graham Crusade, but I became part of a missionary program to give back with the Billy Graham Crusade. And believe it or not, I acted as a mother in a play of Maury Blair, who was born a bastard. He was called a bastard because he was traumatized by his father. And when I acted in that play, that snapped me into needing to heal that anger, because as soon as that beer bottle hit the table of that acting that I was part of, like a lot of actors are out there in movies, that made me realize, okay, I have to stop feeling this perpetual sadness and guilt and resentment in me and heal it. So I ended up having to leave the program and say I had to heal, because just going in autopilot and not choosing to heal was not conducive to where I needed to be in order to become the catalyst that I am for others to heal. So I made a conscious choice in that moment, because I was bulimic. That was the way that I coped with it over the years. Yeah. Because, and it manifests, either people become anorexic or bulimic, and mine was bulimic, and I was like digestive. I had issues, I had ulcers, I had, you name it, I had it. So I realized by not healing, I was bringing more of that repressed anger towards myself in circumstances around me, which even ended my marriage, because I was just so much trying to prove to everyone that I was okay, even though I wasn't okay inside, that I had to do my work. I had to show up for myself, and it wasn't easy work. And I still, some days still have to, do a little bit of work and peel back more layers of belief systems that are stuck in there that I don't address all the time. But I welcome facing them now, as opposed to being, afraid of those shadows.
Right.
Yeah.
But, after sudden loss and after a trauma, a lot of times people do, like how you said, perfectionism, workaholic. A lot of people do pick up an eating disorder. Like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. It's a need for control. Mm-hmm. And that's the one thing that a lot of people have control after a rape or after anything, where a sudden loss of all sorts, and abuse, childhood trauma, and it's very common. But we have coping skills coming up and things that you can do to get past your trauma, and not only that, but heal, and with a positive mindset, because healing does happen. Healing is possible, and no matter what the scenario is. And it's time for our second break. Please stay tuned, and we'll be back with Moments of Clarity in just a moment.
We will return to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Warner after these messages.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
If you are like most people, you worry with the financial challenges you face today. How do you protect your family from financial ruin? How will you reduce your liabilities and get out of debt sooner? And how can you deal effectively with the constant changes in your job, your career, and your business? Overcoming your financial challenges is like building a house. You must build from the ground up. You must learn how to make more money, save more money, grow your money, and protect your money. Forever Forward Financial specializes in teaching you these 4 basic money skills so you can achieve your dreams and end your worry. Call us today and schedule your complimentary, no-obligation meeting to discuss your needs and concerns. Call Scott Bigley at 727-422-7761.
Are you having trouble staying sober after you've completed rehab and need a positive environment to help you continue sobriety? At Real Recovery Sober Living, we strive in both community and environment for men in early sobriety to help support you while in early recovery. For only $750 a month, we cover everything you need when it comes to a safe, clean, and accountable environment necessary for success in sobriety. Check out our website at realrecoveryfl.com. That's realrecoveryfl.com. We have 6 locations in Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, Brandon, North Tampa, and Bradenton, because everyone deserves a quality, sober living.
Hi, this is Tiffany Warner, your host of Moments of Clarity. Living with a mental health disorder is not easy. If you or someone you know are struggling with this, please know it's so important to seek treatment, and I'm here to help. Please visit the website at momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com to view blog posts and resources on this site to help educate and inspire you to take action, because there's no shame in seeking help for mental health. While you're there, please take a few seconds to sign up for my email list. You'll get some extremely valuable educational and entertaining content that can be sent right to your inbox each week. Plus, you'll also get instant and free access to my guide on managing your anxiety. You can also follow me on Twitter at MOC with Tiffany and at Facebook at Tiffany Warner. And once again, the website is momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com. Thank you so much for your support and for listening to your show, because change can only come when we stand together as one. Hi, this is Tiffany Warner, your host of Moments of Clarity. I'd like to give a shout out to musician-songwriter Don Lawson, who wrote, produced, and performed all the vocals and instruments on my Moments of Clarity theme song. Don gained his inspiration as a mental health counselor himself. He's always looking for artists to record his songs, and you can hear more of Don's music at reverbnation.com/Don Lawson. You can also check him out on Twitter at Don Lawson Music. Thank you so much, Don, for your contribution to Moments of Clarity and ending the stigma on mental health. It's awesome.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Now back to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Warner, licensed mental health counselor. To engage in the conversation, call 866-826-1340. Here's Tiffany.
Hi, and welcome back. If you're just tuning in, this is Moments of Clarity with Tiffany. I'm Tiffany Warner. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I'm your host. And today we are talking about, could you forgive people that murdered your family? And my guest today has been through so many compounded traumas and losses from unintentional murder, but still, and losing her whole family, most of her family at the age of 13, and then intentional murder to her one surviving brother, and how to forgive that, and her journey of how she's been through so much and having to cope with that just as a teenager until adulthood. And welcome back to Moments of Clarity, Kate Vrastak.
Thank you, Tiffany. Yes. And again, I've had a lot of moments of clarity, and I want to mention the other moment of clarity was when I published my Ignite Possibilities book, when I had actually a tree accident where it fell on me. And that was my huge Ignite moment that I speak of in that book, where it brought me down to my knees to make me realize that I was only living in perpetual motion. I was giving to everyone else, and I wasn't giving enough to myself. And yes, I've written another book with Les Brown that's coming out as well at the beginning of December. And he, in fact, interviewed me, and he could not believe, he said that he's been trying to help the world see that hurt people do not need to hurt people. And I'm here to say I have forgiven those that have taken my family, because it frees me. It totally frees me to be the person who I am. And that fateful day when that tree fell down on my home and then fell on me, I call it the perfect storm in my book, because it became the perfect storm. Whereas I was living in the storm, and it became a storm of a tornado within inside of me, and ended up having to have much surgery that I almost had near-death experiences. So
you're just popping that on us after this. Okay, so after all of that, then I'm ready to like promote your book here and everything, and books. And after all that, a tree fell on your home and crushed you.
Yes. Well? Yes, it did. And that was my true ignite moment, and or moments of clarity. Yeah.
And by the way, I got crushed by a tree too.
Yeah, it's true. I'm a miracle. The doctors cannot believe that
what happened? It was a tornado?
Well, it was a really bad storm. I just moved into the house 31 days prior to that. And just had hip surgery 3 months to the day prior to that as well. And was out on the phone calling a contractor when the tree shifted from falling onto my home, and then smack fell right on my head. Wow. And brought me literally down. And I've never screamed as loud as I did that day. And oh my God, it was awful. And I went on a journey even deeper than what I had up until that point to heal. But I knew I wanted to see daylight again. And after that incident, I was not able to talk, was not able to look at daylight, let alone sunlight. All I lived with was those pink Himalayan lamps all over my house. In fact, I still use them to this day. And now that's why I encourage people to see their light and to embrace their light. Even though we go through dark times, we are light beings. We are here for a purpose. And that's...
What kind of tree was it?
Actually, I just had someone ask me that. It was an oak tree.
No, there's this one by my house that I'm thinking like, they're like very sacred, I guess, around here, but I want it gone. Just
it's interesting because I really fought with the city, because it's the city's tree on top of that, but realized looking up, because I'm also a shaman, I studied shamanism, that the oak is a powerful messenger. It's actually all about leadership. It's all about stepping into your power and your greatness. So it was a gift, and that's how I look at it. As much as I've gone through so much trauma.
Sense into you about something.
Pardon?
The tree wanted to knock some sense into you or something.
Exactly. And that's what I think, like the yogi says that, when the student is ready, the teacher will present itself. Well, ironically enough, we are all supposed to be a tree, but the tree had to knock me into shape to make me realize that I still had a purpose, and I had to stop and not be giving so much to everybody else, and not going within myself. And my cup was empty. Really, it was empty at that point. I had served 7 years in the court system. This is why I want your listeners to understand this. I went through the anger and resentment and healing all those 7 years through the court system for all the grief that I hadn't healed, that I thought I had, of my mother and brother and everybody else that died, even my father, of suicide. But he died in a coma, but it was a suicide that he did. And that being said, I realized that fateful day that I chose to take back my life, and I chose to say I'm here for a purpose, and I needed to fill up my own cup and stop giving outside of my ability when I was only going through the motions. I was not feeling anymore. I was just perpetually saying, I got to put one step in front of the other. So you can survive, but you can't thrive that way. So I realized in order to thrive, in order to really rebirth into who I wanted to be, which is the sole purpose of why I'm here, to help save lives, because that's my mission, is to save 1 billion lives from suicide. Because I did go through that temptation when at Christmas, a boyfriend broke up with me and left me alone by myself at Christmas, which is my worst time of the year when I don't have my family around me. And that day when I screamed and no one answered, no one picked up the phone even to help me, I even have a producer that wants to make my story a movie and said, like, why didn't you call the police? Well, I didn't even trust the police because of the
What did you
fact that,
scream for?
pardon?
You said the day you screamed.
The scream from the tree. And that, like you said, that ignite moment or moment of clarity was that I had to heal myself. I was the one that had to take responsibility and reach out for resources. And so that's why I wanted to go into the segue of how people can heal themselves on their own, but they need to reach out for help and know that they can accept the help. That was the hugest epiphany for me, that because I was already in the mental health field, and yes, I had friends that I could call on, but in that moment, I didn't feel I had a soul. I didn't feel like no one was there. Even my ex-husband didn't come and give me a ladder. Like nobody was there. So I had to realize that I had to go within, like the yogi teaches. We have to go within and meditate to find that peace, to find that contentment, and align ourselves with our higher purpose and higher calling. So it has been a journey on my path to find the resources, and neuro-linguistic programming was the hugest tool that I came across, that I help people guide them with their healing timeline. Therapy and also hypnotherapy was also another form of modality that actually got my voice back, because I couldn't even speak. I was stuttering. I couldn't put my thoughts together, let alone I couldn't even look up. I was wearing glasses everywhere because I couldn't even stand any sign of light or noise. Nothing. It was terrible. Like I'm
traumatic brain injury then. Like
yes, yeah,
or something around that line.
Yeah, a TBI, and then it became PCS. Post concussion syndrome.
Yeah.
I still suffer from that a bit in different situations still. Like if I'm too stressed or too much is going on, like I get the sensation like of where the tree impacted me on the top of my head. So I do still get that. I'm supposed to go for Botox for that healing, but I'm a fighter, and I'm not here to say a fighter in retaliating in any way. I'm a fighter in that I choose life.
You're not giving up.
No.
Well said. And Jason from India says, thanks, Kate, for being a guest on Moments of Clarity and sharing your story with us. You are a true survivor. And Joe Potosi on LinkedIn says, thanks, Kate, for sharing your powerful story. And there's more, but Facebook, that's a really compelling title for today's show. And you've explained it, Kate, in so many ways. And it's sad to have that be.
But in my books, like when people want to get the books, they can read the story. Yeah, they can read it.
These are the books: Ignite Possibilities, and Ignite the Hunger in You.
Yeah, Ignite Possibilities is my one I just published just before this other one that's coming out with Les Brown, Ignite the Hunger in You. And that's where I talk about the self journey where I had to heal even from my self-image, where my mother as a child broke my nose, and I had to start with loving myself first. And that's what I'm here to say, that it is possible throughout all the sadness and grief and trauma and everything. Really, you have to come back to yourself. Like I said, that fateful day that I went down on my knees, I realized it was only me that could be accountable to heal, and stop blaming those that killed my family, blaming and shaming even my ex-husband for not being there enough to support me, or even friendships. I had to say, okay, enough's enough. I need to reach out for the resources that I know are going to help me and heal and take ownership. And in the books, I talk about that. And I'm here to say, if anybody resonates with any of my story, I'm here to give you hope. I'm here to hold sacred space for you. And I can honestly say that's why I called my business Sacred Roots Coaching, for people to see that it's from the roots up that you have to heal. It's not from the head that you're going to heal, because your head is your worst enemy. Your mental thoughts are your worst enemy. It's going in your soul and your heart to connect them and to align them. And that's where truly the healing is. And Les Brown is a catalyst of that too.
It's time to wrap up. And so for our radio listeners, you can reach Kate and all her books and everything at sacredrootscoaching.com. That's her website. And on Instagram, she's @sacred_roots. She's also on Facebook as well, and LinkedIn. And spell her last name, it's like it sounds, but it's Kate, Vrastak.
Yes.
And Kate, thank you for sharing your powerful journey with us, and for everything that you've been through, and how you've come out on top. Oak trees don't have very deep roots, so I hear they're shallow roots. So um, I'm so sorry that hit. I mean, but you keep surviving rather than playing the victim role, which is what I
Yes.
admire you so much for. And thanks for being on Moments of Clarity. Your journey has been powerful, and
Your life is a gift. So that's why I look at it as a gift now.
once again, I feel like this show's too short. We could have had another hour of this.
I really appreciate it. And yeah, because my story is kind of compounded, but it does help bring it all together for people, that it's what you focus on is where you're going to go in life. But you have to do the work, right? You have to heal. And it's not always the easiest stuff that you have to heal. But it brought me down a path that, hey, at least it's now and not many years down the road later. But I want to help your listeners understand that to prevent dis-ease, choose to reach out and ask for help, because don't suffer in silence. Thank you.
And thank you so much for being on the show. We'll be back with Moments of Clarity every Thursday and Friday from 12 to 1. Next week, we have John Farley on the show. He's going to be talking about his brother, Chris Farley, if you know from Saturday Night Live or Tommy Boy or Black Sheep. But John Farley is going to be sharing his journey next Thursday, 12 to 1. We have an exciting week, a lot of good guests. So join us next week. Please enjoy your weekend. Have a wonderful weekend. Be kind to yourself and a stranger. You never know what they're going through. And take care, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. And thanks, Ed. Thanks, team. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Take care.
Now it clicks, moments of clarity. Now I hear moments of Don't put yourself down, time for a change. Believe in yourself, time to rearrange. Be your best friend, bring hope to your day. Lose your critic, get out of your way. Now it clicks, moments of clarity. Now I hear moments of clarity. Now I get it, moments of clarity. To yourself be kind, it will please your mind. Find your joy, trust in you. Put in the time, you'll see how you grow. Many kinds of love you get to define. Find self-love, your soul will align. Now it clicks, moments of clarity. Now I hear moments of clarity.